In this week's lecture, we are going to look at school age programs, and we're also going to look at professional development, which is going to be one of your assignments. As I've done for infant, toddler, and for preschool, just about some general demographic information. 28 million school-age children have both parents or a single parent who works, and of those 28 million, 15 million go home alone, so a little bit more than half. We have lots of after-school programs, and they should be meeting the needs of school-age children. For many school-age children, especially in communities and neighborhoods that might be considered more unsafe or less engaging, we are needing to increase our after-school programs to meet the needs of those children, either through traditional after-school programs with supervision or youth centers after-school programs that have maybe more of a sports or arts focus as well. We have lots of different types of programs. We have them within public schools. We have them with child care centers. We have independent after-school programs. We have faith-based programs, and we have FCC or family child care. So we have them in a lot of different capacities. So there's no united or universal system of after-school programs, which makes it unusual and sometimes challenging for parents who are working to find the right fit or the right need depending on what their community has available to them. I found this, and this is after school myths, and it's from the NAEYSP, which is a kind of after school education program, and I've linked their website for you guys. I have a couple slides from them that I really like. This is from their collaboration strategies for principals and after school program directors. So that's one of the really unique things about after school programs is most likely you are in some way aligned with the school that the children go to. They're either being bused from that school or picked up from that school, or you operate on their grounds, and you in effect like lease or rent or occupy some kind of space. You might even be an employee of it. So it's unusual in that preschool directors can have a bit more autonomy and control in after school programs, or if you have this component as part of your program, you are having to do a lot of interface and a lot of collaboration with the principals, the school district, the school board even. And so that makes it kind of unique in that you have, not that the principal is your boss, they could be, but in some ways they are another kind of management focus that you need to keep happy, you need to work with, you need to have a good working relationship with, and they also should be having, and they should support you and have a great resource with you. I did work on a school campus for Vista Unified, and I was really, really fortunate to have a wonderful principal who really kind of saw the vision and importance of the work that we were doing. And so we had a great working relationship. She was very helpful with me. She was helpful with parents, and she really supported the idea of education, especially early childhood education, even though we were a nonprofit and we weren't part of Vista Unified. But these are some of the kind of myths that we have about after school programs. So a lot of times we think that they have limited sources of support, and that can be true. But a lot of times there are larger kind of bureaucracies behind those after school programs. Some of the positions pay quite well, they have good benefits, they have large amounts of money that they can spend on these programs. A lot of people, especially in the community or parents, think that they're not accountable to standards or regulations the way that a public school is or early childhood education is, and that's totally not true as well. We have the same standards, same kind of licensing requirements, and then there's also licensing boards and after school kind of accrediting boards that will also come out and look at the unique situations of after school programs and give them accreditation as well. A lot of times people think, and I definitely, as my children have been hitting school age, myself, I see that a lot of them are for underachieving students, but that is not the only case. Some programs are, you have to qualify, you have to be considered underserved, low income, underachieving, qualify for free lunches, something like that. There are those programs, but there are also lots of other programs that kind of meet the needs of our working parents, and I'm lucky to have my family, but in the next couple of years, we probably might be having a FCC or a family in-home childcare help us with that as well, who lives nearby and can pick up as well. After school programs are only for really young children, and that's not true. They can go up until kind of older or middle childhood, let's say. And then we also have programs, youth centers, and other programs for high school students as well. They only serve working families, and that's not true either. A lot of the programs that see underserved communities might have families that stay at home or are doing other things, and they also serve those children. A lot of times they think that they have no child development qualifications, so that staff doesn't know anything. They're just 19-year-olds that we picked up off of the street. Hey, you want to work with kids? No, they have child development units. They're probably looking to become school teachers themselves or do some kind of work in the field. And this is definitely towards that. Quite a few of my Cal State students go to school in the middle of the day, and they might work mornings or afternoons or both at after-school programs. They don't engage with the community in ways that benefit school. It's just a glorified daycare, babysitting, just a place to stuff these kids. Whereas we know that really quality after school programs support the community. They are safe spaces for children to continue their academic goals and their social emotional learning and their physical learning in order to support their overall growth and potential. The third one is after school programs are separate from the school day and do not have relevance to issues such as school attendance or graduation rates. And the better our after school programs are, the better we see with attrition, so staying in school. And then we also see it with continuing to go to school and overall kind of when we talk to children, overall kind of life satisfaction if they have a safe space to go before or after school where they feel loved and seen, like all programs. Number two, after-school programs have no impact on academic success, whereas most of the after-school programs I ran did not have an academic bent. They were more of a child development bent. Some programs, that is their intention, is to support students and their academic success, and in that case, they can. And then also, I think the number one thing the community sees us as if we work with any kind of children and we're not a school teacher, we're just babysitting. We're just hanging out. We just love kids. They're so cute. Yeah, I love kids. They are adorable. But they're also competent, strong people, tiny little humans like everybody else. And I have a lot of qualifications and a lot of education, a lot of experience like everybody else who works in this field that allows me to work with children. Our second one is school leadership myths. So this is kind of about what we think about schools, like public schools, and what they think about after school programs. So a lot of times we think that schools don't welcome parent and community involvement. Most schools have some kind of parent advisory board, PTO, PTA. They also have and look for community involvement if they have a school garden. Like South Oceanside, they have such a thriving garden program with such a community focus. Like Jason Mraz does a concert every fall for them, and I've gone to it, and they raise a lot of money. Their garden is so big that not only do they give produce to their own cafeteria for the children to eat for lunch, they also sell some of it at the farmers market in order to bring more revenue into their school garden. So there's a lot of community involvement, and parents are typically very involved, and a lot of programs will have some kind of parent education focus as well. They don't recognize that school buildings belong to the community and should be open beyond school hours for after school programs and other community events. Yeah, so this is a sticking point for a lot of places because when they are open and there's nobody there on a Friday or Saturday, at least at my daughter's school, some people like to go sit out on the field at my daughter's school and have their evening beer on a Saturday night and then leave their beer bottles, which is not great. But we also do know, and I think most schools see their job and their role is to be part of the community, to be part of activities, and to support after school programs and support children and their need to have care after 2:30 or 3 in the afternoon. Teachers are unwilling to share their classrooms with after-school programs. I've honestly never seen that. I'm sure there are the odd teacher that has put a lot of time and money and effort into their classrooms. So for the most part, I've never had a problem with teachers sharing. I think they see us as their allies, and I think teachers are some of the most generous people. Just go on Teachers Pay Teachers or Pinterest or anything else. I think sometimes people think principals are unapproachable and slow to respond to the requests from after school programs. And principals are taken in many different directions, but at least the times that I've had with principals have been very effective, and they have been supportive of early care, aftercare, or early childhood education. Principals don't see after school programs as their responsibility. And I have seen a touch of this in that, especially if it's a nonprofit, especially if it's another group, it is not their kind of HR management responsibility. But it is, I think, in the wider scheme, I think principals see it as their overall community support responsibility. And so I think they see it as playing a necessary role and are very convenient with that as well. Schools view after-school programs as childcare, babysitting. I haven't really seen this either. I think most elementary school, middle school, and high school teachers understand early childhood education, and we really set the stage for the child's potential. So without that, they might be getting to us without some of those necessary skills that maybe they should have learned at 2 or 3. So I've kind of never, I've seen every once in a while, but for the most part, I think we're all kind of aligned in wanting what's best for children. So this is 6 standards and strategies that the NAESP has for principals. So this is a kind of supportive document that they have written to support principals in supporting after-school programs. So they just talk about expanding the vision of learning. So yes, learning happens at the public school. It happens through traditional school days and through credentialed teaching, but it also happens outside. It happens with parents. It happens in the community. It happens in the summer. It happens after school and on the weekends as well. Act as a community catalyst in that you can affect change. And so supporting one part of your community, in this case, after school programming, can also support your overall general larger mission of a community of learning. Collaborate to manage resources. So after school programs typically have their own resources, their own funding streams, and school districts can support that in making sure that they're not providing something that maybe the after school program already has access to, or maybe supporting or merging those types of resources as well. Making sure that they have quality content. So if somebody is allowing after school programs on your school campus, making sure that there is quality content. So the staff is well qualified, they're well taught, they have had professional development provided to them, and the curriculum that they're choosing and the way that they are programming it with their daily schedule ensures that it's quality programming for children. They should evaluate it as well to make sure that it continues to be good programs, and they should champion after school programs as well. At my daughter's school, they have a mariachi after school band that meets, I think, 2 or 3 days a week after school for I think 1.5 hours to 2 hours. And the principal has been very, very supportive of the program. She goes to their competitions all over San Diego. She makes sure that they ask the PTO on which I'm the board, one of the board members, to make sure that we, as we can support some of those instrument choices and buying. I really didn't know how much a child violin cost until we had to pay for them. They're really expensive. I don't know why. I thought because they're so much smaller than a regular violin, I thought they would be less money, but they're really quite a lot of money. And so it's been nice that we've been able to kind of gift a few to the program as well. So we're championing those after school programs and opportunities for children. This is just a planning tool about for principals, about kind of what's your vision, what's your plan, how do you share resources, how do you talk with parents, administrators, and students. So this is also part of that learning communities, what principals should know and be able to do, which is up online if you were interested in it and sharing it with a principal or just kind of taking a look at it. And then also, I think traditionally, they're trying to kind of show that we do a lot of teaching at traditional public schools. We also do a lot of teaching at after school, and the community does as well, especially if you take a sociology kind of look at children like Bronfenbrenner. The community is modeling and supporting children in their learning as well. So we could be teaching reading at school and after school and community, but we're not touching. There's no collaboration, there's no interaction, there's no relationships or links. So they're really pushing that it should look more like this, with the school, the after school, and the community all together. And there's kind of this middle ground where we're sharing resources, we're sharing support, education, and we're coming together to meet that child's needs in the middle. So we all have a duty and a responsibility to educate and support children and young adults. And we do it when we kind of pool our resources and are working together. So I think the interesting thing about working with school-age children is kind of their middle childhood. Sometimes we very ominously refer to it as the forgotten period, because typically they have a bit more skills development than maybe our really young ones, like infants and toddlers, where you need really high ratios and you're spending so much time with them. So they need less kind of supervision, and they don't have as much kind of pressing developmental needs with us. But they still continue to kind of need us as well. So how do we provide that kind of support for these children? I think this quote kind of sums it up. Middle childhood is an important period where children develop a sense of who they are, what they can do, and how others perceive them. Children also develop a sense of their own power and the acceptance of their peers. So children in this age are entering Jean Piaget's concrete operational, which is like 7 to 12. So they have more logic, more kind of problem solving skills, more ability for memory, for fact retention. With Erikson, we're kind of looking at industry versus inferiority. So kind of working on emotional processes, learning more adult skills, working on a lot of the social and emotional skills as well. So they need supervision and they need positive support to hit these developmental ability stages. At the same time, they need less support and less supervision that they would have at younger ages as well. I'm not going to play this, but this is a nice YouTube video. And I show a lot of videos to staff. I like it. I mean, especially if I'm training, and today, or for your weekly assignment, you're going to be doing an hour agenda. I would probably have 5 to 10 minutes of any kind of staff training, be some kind of video. And we're so lucky that on YouTube, anything from the state of California, especially when it relates to early childhood education or after school, has basically already been put on YouTube for you guys. And there are other lots of support from universities as well. So you could just search, like, in this case, I did middle childhood skills and ability, and a 5-minute video popped up. Because it's nice to kind of remind people of that theory, and as it relates to practice. Like, so, if you're working with children that are 7 to 12, yeah, they are technically in the same Erikson and Jean Piaget stages, but a 7-year-old's ability is going to be really different than a 12-year-old. So kind of reminding people about that trajectory, those milestones, and what children should be hitting, especially as they're working with kind of larger age ranges from, maybe 6 to 10, 5 to 12, those are kind of very large age ranges with, I've seen 12-year-olds with mustaches, and 5-year-olds that look like teeny tiny little preschoolers. So that's a lot of age ranges that you might be having to look at. So social and emotional development at this age is really characterized by wanting to engage in peer groupings and develop strong bonds with a few select friends. So clubs and cliques is really, really normal and should be very much encouraged. This is the child's first foray outside of their kind of immediate family or close family. So they need to develop close friendships. So that BFF necklaces that we had when we were little, friendship bracelets, all of that is very, very normal. We remember it from our childhood, and we want to support other children in it as well. We want to make sure that it's age positive, it's friend focused, it's working on meeting new people, learning new skills, trying new things together, maybe building clubs based on general interest level, art or dance or music or coding or gardening, something like that. So they're forming social groups and clubs. We're also trying to support them in cooperating, negotiating, resolving problems. That's a lot of Erikson's industry versus inferiority stage. So we want defined and written program expectations. So this is communicated to parents. This is what we expect from you. Be respectful and polite. This is what we expect from your child, that they're respectful and polite. And this is what you can expect from us and how our staff is going to be respectful and polite. When we have expectations for behaviors, they should be really, really spelled out. So respectful and polite might be the overarching policy, but then you're going to explain to them what that actually means. So what are the things that you expect from children? What are the things that you might send a child home for? What do you consider bullying? It's huge in after school programs and has been a real area of kind of a sticking point. And what do you expect from your staff? So how are you going to train your staff? What do you want them to know about children developmentally? What do you want them to be able to do? What do you want them to understand about bullying, about cyberbullying? That's going to be really important. Or when do you want to be notified? So if you're the management director, supervisor of an after-school program, what do you expect the staff to be able to handle on their own? And when do they need to kind of see you in order to support that as well? So this is a schedule for staffing because staffing can be really difficult for after-school programs, especially if you're doing kind of split groups or split schedules where you're available in the morning, you're available in the afternoon, and then you have kind of the middle off. Or you know, a lot of the more management will do like the early shift through the start of it, and then not be there right at the very end. It can really, really kind of change. Because it's after school or before school. So that's where things can be a little bit difficult. And there are lots of ways that you can kind of do that. There can be morning teachers who then do breaks or do something else while children are actively at school. There can be a morning teacher or an afternoon teacher. They can be a split shift, which is great for college students because they can go to school in the middle because they're basically off from 10 to 2 or something like that. And that's plenty of time to hit a class or two or get some studying done. A lot of programs prefer to hire college age students, or they want a teacher with a PE or like a recreation background. A lot of times teachers will look, programs will look for teachers who have permits so they can do the after school program in the morning, then they can come back to Discovery Isle or the you know, more corporate preschool and then work in an infant classroom or do breaks or something like that. And then in the afternoon, somebody's going to go back and get the children and work with them again. Because we have such a variety of after school programming or before school programming, it can be an interesting kind of mix. A lot of shifts that are just traditional after school will employ college students or somebody who's doing something maybe earlier in the morning. So maybe sometimes people who are trying to get businesses off the ground or maybe are working part-time might work that 2 to 6 shift or even 1 to 2 as well. Typically when you arrive, you're setting things up, getting classrooms or multi-purpose rooms or gyms or outside areas set up, or if you have your own space, preparing for the children, picking them up, having dismissal, getting roll call, making sure, because a lot of times, you know, you're supposed to have 42 and the parents didn't call them out, and where is this child and where are they, and having all of your phone calls and getting everybody situated for the walk or the drive back. Then you have to also provide breaks depending on how long their shifts are. So 10-minute breaks, lunch breaks, depending on the shift that they work. And then a lot of supervising and making sure that you're having that quality content. And then if you are on a school campus, making sure that you clean really well and you shut down for the day as well. So the next morning when the school teachers come back in, it is how it was when they left earlier. You'll have your own space as well, just making sure that you're getting ready for the next day as any other teacher would. So I think there's also a balancing act in that what children and families want at this age can be really different. So in after-school programs, there are often competing needs. So parents express the need for safe and pleasant environments, for care for when they're working, and for children to do their homework. Children tend to vote for recreational games, plenty of time to talk with their friends, free choice of activities, and no homework. Oh, surprise, surprise. So I do think that as soon as children get off school, and I say that in a very specific way, we get off work and children get off school. So they have been learning play is the work of children. Children have been in an academic environment and they need a break. Even if you're going to be doing homework and academic programming, I still think that there needs to be free play, there needs to be gross motor time, there needs to be special interest, social and emotional, something within that daily schedule for them to do right when they get off. So when we had an after-school program, they had an hour of just free time. So we would have a snack set up inside, but it was like buffet style. So if it was something cold, it was being appropriately chilled, but the children could go and they could serve themselves and they could sit at any point in that hour. So, and then other children could be outside, other children could be reading, because how we are when we get off work is very different. My husband is take his shoes off, sit on the couch, chill out. When my daughter gets home from school, she needs to like go run around like a maniac outside and kick balls and do flips and scream as loud as she can. And I like a little bit of quiet and silence, and so does one of my other kids. We just kind of want to like decompress. My husband likes to sit on the couch and talk to me, which can be an issue if we've got enough work at the same time, because I want people to stop talking to me because I, the teacher, have had people talking or I've been talking all day. So my need for silence is a little bit different than his need to talk. So we have to figure that out. And that's the same thing in our after school programs. Like, we need to allow, and this is really a bias that I might have, and you might not agree with me, but I see the developmental need and the human need for that hour of time for you to decompress after your school day, and treating a child's school day the same way you would treat your work day. So allowing for the child who needs to run, allowing for the child who needs to talk to somebody, allowing for the child who needs to write or read to calm themselves down, allowing for the child who's going through a growth spurt and is going to shove 90 million goldfish crackers and a bowl of yogurt in their face. So I really think that that first hour should be for that, even if you have an academic or homework focus. And I was just talking to this about somebody and how frustrated she was with her child and their lack of doing homework. So I was like, yeah, what's your afternoon like? And she's like, okay, so I get off at 4:30 and I pick my child up at 4:45 and we're home by 5:15. Like, that makes sense, you know, half an hour commute, that's pretty typical. That's actually pretty good in Southern California. And then she's like, I give him a snack at the table and I want him to do his homework. And I was like, honestly, I was like, I don't think they should have screen time. It's really hard to come back from that, but I think they could do anything else and run, jump, go to the playground, just be outside, go on the trampoline, read a book, anything like that to kind of refocus. Because I'm like, when you get home, you're probably like, sit down for a minute, kick your shoes off, relax, and then you go and make dinner. So I think you need to allow kind of the child that same thing, like give 45 minutes, I would say an hour would be more ideal of not screen time, because nobody wants to get off the screen once it's started. And then they can do their homework and see if that kind of allows the child to have that mental break and that mental space to come back. When I ran programs, they were not academically focused. And I know that was kind of a privilege or a blessing that I had support higher than me in that. And we also advertised our program as that as well. And we typically catered to younger children who didn't have as much homework. So we didn't have middle school and high school as well. So that was not our focus. Our focus was great quality care and working on developmental skills and not on academic skills. If you do that and you have to do homework or tutoring or academic success, I really 100% and based on child development evidence, really, really know that we need free play and especially gross motor exploration, especially if they're coming to schools that don't support that or have gotten rid of PE. So how do you tell families about this? So because the families are going to want homework maybe, because yeah, if you get home at 6 or 6:30 or 7 o'clock, you know, you have 2 hours maybe to get everything done, and for them to come home with 45 minutes of homework is a bummer. So if you are not going to be an academic focus, then that needs to be very clearly communicated with the parents so that they can find the right program for them. Or you can say, you know, we pick them up at 3:30, and then free play is from 4 to 5, and then 5 to 6 is homework or clubs. Or tutoring support like that. So then they know what to expect. So they know if they pick their child up at 5:15, they haven't done much homework at that point. They're going to have to be taking it home. Parents are going to be less participating, but they'll still be supportive. They should still know what's going on. We don't need to tell them when their kid takes a poop anymore or how much water they drank, things like that. But they're still going to need some kind of daily communication, which typically can be verbal. I know some programs use technology, and it's always nice to get a picture or something on your phone or your iPad. But typically, a lot of it is kind of just communicating what the school said or how they were at the after-school program. I love the school age environment. I think I love infants, and then I love school age next, and then probably preschool and then toddlers. I love infants because of the routines and the closeness and the softness of the space. And I think I like space planning and environment planning for school age because you can have games and foosball and air hockey and basketball hoops and monkey bars and all of those kind of things that you think about when you think about your childhood. So we like to have independent and social games. So the child who needs to play solitaire off to themselves versus the children who are playing Go Fish together. Allowing for dominoes or building projects over very many days. I know on a school campus this would be less feasible, but if you have your own space or your own classroom, children at this age love to do projects that are spaced out over many days, especially if you only have an hour of kind of playtime. If they were going to be making a kind of domino cascading large format kind of game, they're going to need more space. And then some children are going to need more solitary play. Woodworking, you know, it's hard to do woodworking when they're super little, but this age would be great, especially if that was a strength of your staff. Gardening as well, they love to garden, and that's a great way to decompress is to be outside in the sun, getting your vitamin D, getting your outdoor space after you get out of school as well. So, you know, if you're using space that's not your own, it can be really difficult, and I have experiences. If you do have your own space, it's just really important that you remember developmentally where they are and that they can do more active, almost adult-like things. So we're not treating them like the preschool classroom anymore, and they don't need all of the like primary colors and like posters that we would put up for 3-year-olds. They're not interested in that. They're interested in JoJo Siwa and watering plants and playing games with each other. They're interested in the YouTube stars and things like that. So I think we have to kind of meet their appropriate needs. I mean, obviously we're not going to be playing YouTube videos for them, but those are the new stars of childhood. And so they should be able to talk about and think about and maybe even have a picture on the wall of these kind of new stars of their childhood. You know, don't play the videos maybe, but that could be something that we have. Vehicle transportation is so hard. And so is walking to the school in the center. Licensing has a lot of requirements, which we should, about vehicle transportation and having cell phones and having your safety and CPR bags. The person who drives and what kind of license they need to have. You might also walk to school or to the center, and you're going to need more supervision and more training for the children on what that means as well. More bathroom supervision at this age. You know, it's less of the accidents and more of the peeing on the wall, because let's be realistic, I've worked in after school programs and I've worked in programs that have little boy bathrooms. And making sure that they wash their hands at some point. Being 7 or 8 years old, they don't think they have to wash their hands anymore. Field trips, if there's a water aspect, our ratios plummet, 1-to-1 for infant toddler, 1-to-6 for after school programs, and 1-to-4 for preschools. And then summer and school breaks as well. So if your program provides the same services, but in the summer all day, you typically start planning in March so that you can have all the field trips, all of the vendors who are going to come there, all of the camps, if you're going to be doing a weekly camp or a weekly option, making sure that you have vehicles in order to transport everybody. So it's an intense amount of planning for that. It's typically pretty fun. The staff love it, and they'll come up with their ideas. But you're typically starting to plan in March or April so that you can source materials and source resources so that it can start on the 3rd week of June typically. Balanced supervision. So this is the idea of that children, I think I kind of alluded to it before, I don't need to talk about it again, but the idea that children need to have the time and space to be who they are, but they also need supervision of it as well. They can't just be working on those more adult or social skills all by themselves. They still continue to need staff to support them. Safety, as always, we need safety checklists for all of our ages, and especially this age as well. If they are doing woodworking, what is their safety checklist? What kind of materials do they have with them? What is our staff's responsibility in supporting them? Same with gardening, you know, is your garden home made out of metal? Is it made out of plastic? Where is it stored when it's not being used? How are the children being supervised? What kind of eyewear protective measures are you taking? And then coordinating safety, especially if a physical site is not actually yours. So, you know, Life Succeed has some very specific requirements about thumbtacks and on what kind that they shouldn't be anywhere, which is very understandable. We don't want children playing with thumbtacks because a 2-year-old or 3-year-old might swallow them. But at the same time, if you are on a school campus, they use thumbtacks for everything all day long because they're working with older children typically. So how do you coordinate safety, and how do you talk and make sure that your program and where you are working is safe when you are maybe not on a space that you own yourself? All right, so your weekly assignment that I just wanted to talk about is to create a professional development or staff training agenda. So you don't actually have to do it. You don't have to record yourself doing it. You don't have to source the materials. You don't have to grab the YouTube videos. You're just telling me exactly what you would do if you were doing a staff training agenda. So you could use cyberbullying, what that is for the staff, how they might be able to see the signs of it, because children younger and younger have phones, children younger and younger are creating Instagram accounts without their parents knowing, things like that as well. So what might be the signs and symptoms that you might see in school of cyberbullying or regular bullying? You want to talk about development, you want to talk about gross motor skills and how to support them, or fine motor skills and how to support them. It's totally up to you guys. So you're going to pick a topic that you want them to either have more knowledge about, or maybe you want them to create skills, and you're going to create a 1-hour agenda. So think fun, engaging, hands-on. So you're going to have some learning outcomes. What do you want the staff to know at the end? You're going to be interactive, you know, videos, small group work, large group work, discussions, practice, anything like that. So it's totally up to you. It's pretty open-ended. It just needs to be an agenda of what you would do. So I would play this video, we would talk about this, we would break into small groups and do this, but hands-on activities are prioritized. I have linked to this after-school program. So right here is the after-school training toolkit from SEDL, so the National Center for Quality After School. So they do a lot of research and education. So they have some ideas. So book discussions, math, science, arts, technology. They have 10 ways to use this toolkit for professional development, which you can use to support you. Don't just cut and paste it, that's plagiarism, but that could give you ideas on the toolkit and how you could do it for professional development. So you can click on any of these and it will give you more information about these kind of topics and maybe some student learning outcomes. That's a learning outcome that we would have for our staff, and how you can support them as well. So that is going to be your assignment for this week. You guys are going to make sure that you do an agenda. So you might want to use this as a resource. I also have another resource up online for you guys as well in the assignment. I have kind of a template or something to get your thoughts going about what should we teach, how should we teach it. So once again, you guys are just going to write an agenda that looks any way you want. So you could just do a Word document and type it out. I know some of you love your graphics and things like that. So if you wanted to make it more, you know, fancy looking, go for it. But at the very least and at the very most, all I want is, what would you teach? What do you want the teachers to know? How are you going to keep it active, hands-on, relevant to them? Like if you're doing it, let's say you picked an after-school program that you wanted to do professional development on, you wouldn't tell them about infants, you're working with infants. But if you work with infants, or you have an infant and toddler program and you want to teach them about after-school programs, that would make sense. There have been in toddler teachers. You should teach them about diaper changing procedures or something like that. So it's up to you, the topic. It's up to you, the teachers, and what age range they work with. It could be on routines. It can be on after-school programs. It could be on bullying. It could be on screens, how to have a computer, an iPad in the classroom without it interfering with learning. But just keep hands-on and active and engaged. And you're just telling me what they're going to learn, how they're going to learn it, and how you might know that they're doing it. So that is the weekly assignment for today. Otherwise, that is it for today. And that is our lecture, and I will see you guys online.